Hello, Steve Arts 89. So I've had the fortune to meet two Lois Lanes and a Superman. When I was growing up, of course, I saw the old Christopher Reeve films on TV, and I had like a Superman 3 adaptation with like photos of like, Christopher Reeve in, the movie and that, and I used to sort of look at that for hours and that, and I really was I remember when he came off his horse and was paralyzed, and I really believed he was going to walk. I thought there'll be some time he'll go at an event and he'll come out on the stage in his wheelchair and he'll stand up and show us that like he can walk again. I really thought that was going to happen, and when he passed, it was really upsetting. I cried for about 3 days. Like I just, whenever I thought of it, I just was so upset because he was my Superman and he passed, and I really wished I'd met him. I was fortunate enough though to meet Margot Kidder, and I was very lucky because she had been sick. She was doing an event through this promoter, the guy that I know, and she was basically, they were screening Superman 1 or 2 or Superman 1 and 2, I think it was a Superman 1, and she was going to do a Q&A afterwards, or maybe a Q&A before the film. I can't remember what the order was going to be. But then when she was here in Australia, she got really sick, like really sick. She nearly died. And my friend, of course, was like managing her, and he was freaking out because, he's worried about her, but he's also worried about, I don't want to be the person who killed Margot Kidder, and you had like people like famous directors calling him up to speak to her and that, and he's like speaking to like he dropped a bunch of names I can't remember that were calling up to talk to her and that he had to sort of pass the phone over to her and stuff like that. It was quite surreal for him. She did recover and that, and she did come back and she did another event, but this was at Armageddon this time, and it was amazing just to see her in person. Like I loved her Lois Lane. She for me is Terry Hatcher and her. They're kind of equal in some ways, because I watched Lois and Clarke religiously and I loved the show, but I also loved, she's the original Lois Lane, but it's kind of difficult. You can't pick, one that's better than the other. I love them both. And yeah, so I got to meet her, I got the autograph, I got the photograph with her, I was wearing my Superman t-shirt, and she was very friendly, and I went up and chatted to her when it was a bit quiet, and I was just talking to her about, because she had some interesting views on medication, and she'd had some problems, and I talked about my problems, and we were just talking about that, and it was quite interesting to be talking to Margot Kidder about these sort of issues, and to take her advice and that, and sadly she passed away not long after that, a year or so I think after that. I can't remember how long it was. I was pretty upset, but I was so glad that I got to meet her, and I didn't bring up Christopher Reeves because I'm like, I know how much she loved him, and I don't want to I just don't want to, make her sad or something. So I didn't actually mention him at all. I talked probably more about Amityville, and she nearly gave me a free autograph. Actually, she nearly did. They gave me a free photo of her and that outside the house, just because I'm like, oh, this is such a great shot. I almost don't want you to write on it because I'd like to just frame it on its own, and so they gave me an extra one, which was really nice. But then at another convention, I met Terry Hatcher and Dean Cain at Supernova 2017. Now, I went all the way to Sydney just to meet them because I grew up watching the show. I loved it, and I thought Dean Cain was so damn hot. I just couldn't. He was such a beautiful, beautiful man, and his uniform, his Superman costume was pretty good, and Terry Hatcher was great as Lois, and I loved that show. Everyone I knew watched that show. We all watched that show. It was just a great show, and she was really nice. She was a little aloof. He was a lot more engaging, but it was kind of funny because she could kind of tell I was just looking at him in awe, and I think she's probably seen a few gay guys, coming to pieces around him because he was so pretty, and she just had to stand back and be like, okay, I'm not getting any attention, but that's okay. But yeah, I chatted to her for a minute because also about I nearly said Real Housewives, Desperate Housewives, and I went and got the photo with them, and it was weird because the people said, oh, don't touch them, and the people coming down the road, people saying, don't touch them, blah, 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 and I'm like, God, these people are really weird. Not the actors, just they're people, they're minders, they're, the people who take care of them. So if you look at my photo, I'm standing there with my hands like basically at my sides, and they're both being very friendly with me. And that's the thing with Dean; he was really friendly. When I told him that I was gay, and watching him when I was a kid, and that I sort of didn't really understand I was gay, and I just had such a crush on him, and I couldn't really talk about it because and just to be able to meet him and say that and have it not be an issue is such a great thing now. And he was really friendly. He gave me a big hug, and in the photo he's like really giving me a big hug and holding me. I didn't hold him much because I'd been told don't touch them. So I look a little cold in the photo. He looks a lot friendlier. But then I found out, I don't know what happened to him, but he turned into a huge Trump supporter, and I it's really upsetting because I love him so much, but I can't listen to any of the stuff he says now, and it's just really sad. But I still have that memory of him being so great and so friendly and so warm and so sweet, and I don't know what happened to him, but I'm going to go.